Hi, I'm Miss Mackey and welcome to Study Skills for Math. First thing I want you to do is you will be handed out a Post-it. On your Post-it, please write your first and last name. Some people complain that to study for a math test they have no idea what to do. But really the best way to study for a math test is to practice math problems. I want you to take the next 10 seconds and write down what are things that you have done so far this year or maybe last year to help you study for a math quiz or test. So go ahead and take this time, 10 seconds. Write down what you think you've done so far. All right. I want you to go ahead and look at your list. Some of the things that people typically say when they want to study for a math quiz or test is that they read their notes or they read their book. Well, when you're doing a math quiz or a math test, you actually have to do the actual problems. So simply reading through your notes isn't really helpful at all. Reading through the book really isn't helpful at all. The textbook and your notes is really a manual to go ahead and help you do math problems. So if you're going to go ahead and read, what your next step needs to be is to actually do the problems. There's a variety of websites that you can also use to help you study for a math quiz. I want you to put a star on your Post-it if you have any of the math websites listed. There's typically two math websites that you can use. The 7th grade accelerated program is using the Algebra book, and they don't have one. But if you're in the other math classes in 7th grade, the website that you need to be able to use is called bigideasmath.com. And when you go to that Big Ideas Math, you need to be able to log in. So I want you to take 10 seconds, turn to the person next to you, and I want you to go ahead and tell them how you log into Big Ideas.
Nicholas at St. John at D181students.org with my password. Don't tell anyone.
Okay, so as you go ahead and you log in, you are using simply your first and last name. Do you use your at D181?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
What?
You just type in your
I
first and last name. Your password, though, is the same password as your computer login. So when you're on a Big Ideas website and you've clicked on student, you're simply using your first and last name smushed together, and you're going ahead and using your password from school from the computer. Now, at Big Ideas, there's some things that they can go ahead and use to help you study. Each lesson on the Student Interactive or the Student Edition Interactive, there are series of tutors or tutorials that you can listen to. So if you go home and you don't understand the lesson, the first thing I recommend that you do is go ahead and log into Big Ideas and click on each examples tutorial. When you do that, you're going to go ahead and listen to someone explain the lesson to you again. Now, this is really important too. So when you go ahead and let's say you're someone who maybe doesn't necessarily pick up material very quickly, what I'm going to suggest is that you go ahead and listen to that video before you go to class. So what you can go ahead and do is click on the tutorial, because we usually list what topics we're going to be talking about for the week. You could go ahead and what that's called is called pre-teaching, but you're really pre-teaching yourself. So when you pre-teach, you're listening to material before the teacher even does it. And that way maybe you can go ahead and have some background information before you go ahead and listen to the teacher. Now, in addition to the tutorials, there is a quiz that you can take at the bottom that goes ahead and reviews every concept overall, and you can hit submit, and it'll tell you right immediately and give you feedback as to which ones you got correct and which ones you got wrong. The next thing that you need to go ahead and do is the textbook has all the pages on your book. So when you go ahead and you're using the pages from your book, you can do the homework by using those pages. So have you ever used those pages before?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me how you log in. Don't tell us what your login is, but tell me how you do
My
it.
first name, last name,
School computer password.
Fantastic. Okay. So when you go ahead and you can use that book for that. Now, let's talk about the other website. You may use IXL. So IXL has a different login. So I want you to take 5 seconds. I don't want you to tell them what it is, but I want you to tell them what your username is and then what kind of password you should be using. So take 10 seconds right now, turn to your partner, and talk about your IXL password.
So it's your
Girls, I'm sorry too. So, when you're logging into IXL, you're going to go ahead and use your first and last name, but you simply click tag onto the end of it. It's your first and last name at D181. You don't include the word students, and that's why some kids are saying they can't get in. So, it's your first and last name at D181, and then that password is also your computer password that you use from school. Now, when you go ahead and use IXL, you can go ahead and search all the topics. Sometimes you can go ahead and use that to review for a quiz and test by finding the same topics that you used in your big ideas or your algebra book to go ahead and practice those problems. And the good thing about the IXL website, it gives you immediate feedback. All right. So right now we've talked about you can't just read your math book. You can't just read your notes. You have to go ahead and actually do the math problems. And I've given you 2 ways to go ahead and do those math problems. You can go on to Big Ideas and they give you problems to go ahead and try, or you can go on to IXL. They also give you problems to go ahead and try. All right? So you've gone ahead and start on your thing. Just show of hands. How many of you actually had both of the websites and you started them when you did it? How many of you? Show of hands. All right, so now I want you to go ahead and I want you to see if, based on what I've said so far, is there anything that you could add to your list? So I want you to silently read through your list and say, all right, this may be not the best thing. What are some of the best things? All right, so silently do this now. Okay. What I want you to do now is I want you to turn to the person next to you, and I want you to read through your list to them, and they're going to read their list to you. And then, if there's anything, stop and listen. Stop and listen still. So you're going to read your list to them, their list to you. And then I want you to go back, and if there's anything on their list that you think is good, I want you to include it on your Post-it. Go ahead and go do this now.
This is St. John's at you practice problems. Use IXL.
Okay, I was really happy that I saw, while I was videoing, that there were some kids that actually heard something that they like and put it down on their Post-it. Now, we've talked about what do you need to do, which is do problems. We've talked about there's 2 places that you can go. If you're really struggling in math and you need to prepare for a quiz or a test, all right, one of the things that you can do is you can go ahead and go to a review session. Most of the math teachers are here early before school or stay late after school to go ahead and review. At this point, you're in 7th grade. You really should be taking it upon yourself to get the extra help when you need it. So, if there's a review session before school or after school, I suggest you attend it. Unless you're getting an A or a B on everything, I highly recommend that you're going to those. And even those kids that are getting those A's and a B's, a lot of the time when you go through the review sessions, we're giving you little information here and there to remind you of details that kids typically miss on quizzes and tests. So if you're unable to go ahead and attend a review session, there's other things that you can do to prepare, all right? One of the things is you can go ahead and get help from someone at home. You could always call a friend, all right? Those are definitely things that you could go ahead and work on to get better with a test, all right? Now, I want you to flip your Post-it over. Okay. Now, the problem with math that makes it so much different, or not necessarily the problem, but what makes math so much different than other tests, all right, is why we struggle with having to study for them. So, on the back side of your Post-it, I want you to write, why is math so different than other quizzes and tests? How do you have to study differently for math than other tests? So take time right now on the back of your Post-it and write down how you have to study differently for math. All right, maybe some of the things that you wrote down is when you have a science or a social studies or a language arts or even word within a words, what are you doing with those problems? You're simply memorizing them. That is not what math is. You actually have to do the problems. All right. I'm hoping that today helped you study better for a quiz or a test. And remember, if you have any questions, be sure to ask your teacher. Thanks. Have a great day.